Yep. Dude, the curvy road section too. I was like, all my anxieties were quelled like through the first turn. You're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, it's really that, like, you're like trying to build up the courage to jump off a bridge, right?
Yeah.
And then once you do, you're like, oh, that was actually really fun. I want to do it again.
And then you spend $22,000 and now you're jumping off a bridge all the time. So now the audience is already riding with us. I gave Spite the very first time riding this, my first cruiser. Like, I've ridden the Sportster, but that doesn't compare. Like,
yeah,
at all.
It's a completely different riding experience. That is much more modern. It's much bigger. It's a more pulled together, more premium bike for sure.
It's heavier. It's like beefy. You're disappearing into my rear view mirror like you're gone. This has been nuts. And like, the first thing that I'll talk about is I was really nervous to do it. And I've seen other motor vloggers like hop on big cruisers for the first time and drop them and stuff. And Jake got to witness me like not knowing where to put my feet, and then my brain farted and then I didn't know how to turn. Because I was like, oh, how do you ride a bike without feet?
Yeah, I was like, Whitney, don't go into the bush, please. That's the first corner. Please don't go into the bush.
But once I was like, okay, put your foot on the peg first. So that's my advice to anybody hopping on a giant cruiser for the first time. No, he's saying that these are mids. I don't believe him because my feet are so far forward, and to picture them any more forward, I would just give up riding forever. But like, I feel like a different person. You did this. This is a lot of fun. I was kind of ripping it. You were just gone.
Yeah.
I pushed my limits even further. We went on like a little twistier road, and it just handled it. It crushed it.
Yeah, it did great. It's a great package. It's a really nice motorcycle, and I'm glad that you had fun with it, because they can be really intimidating. You know, we said it in the video on my channel that a bunch of Harley folks will say that's not a big Harley, that it's kind of a small bike, which is nuts to me.
How long do you think it would take somebody riding a bike this big regularly to calibrate to like a bigger one?
To get onto a road glide, you'd probably be able to do it pretty quickly, but it would still take probably a couple of days to get used to just how big those bikes are, because they're big motorcycles.
Big
there she goes.
Motorcycle! Dude, it's nothing.
Yeah, the torque on that is effortlessly powerful. It's really great for just cruising around.
Torque is the spice of life. Okay, let's talk about why cruisers were never my thing, right?
Yeah, that kind of surprised me, honestly, because, you know, I kind of expected with your penchant for older classical styled motorcycles for you to just like be like, oh yeah, cruisers, that's a thing. I
grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and to me this was the only type of motorcycle that existed. There was nothing else. You had to be old and mean and fat to ride one. No, obviously no one in my family rode motorcycles. Obviously I didn't have any friends who rode motorcycles. Like, I only ever knew it as like passerbys, and they were all wearing leather, and it was just like a culture I didn't understand, and they felt like a different species a little bit. And then funny enough, my first job was at a cafe racer coffee shop, and so it was just a bunch of like really nice old guys who love wrenching on their bikes, building cool cafe racers and choppers. And they blew my mind open to like what motorcycles could be, and it didn't have to be this super intimidating, gigantic, old white guy dominated culture. Like, they were showing me that it was possible to branch out a little bit. So, and that just like I was telling you there was a story. I was at a DMV and I was trying to register like my old vintage bike, my old vintage Honda, and the woman behind the counter like asked the dude that was also registering stuff for motorcycles a question, and he was such an asshole to her. And I was like, damn, okay. I guess this, I was like, see, this affirms why I never talk to Harley people, blah, blah, blah. You know, it was like, he's so mean. That whole culture is mean. And that was it. It just solidified it. And I never really met anyone else on a cruiser ever, which is strange.
I feel like the Midwest cruiser biker culture is very different for some reason. I actually haven't spent enough time up there riding among that crew, but it feels like they're adhering to the Harley image extra hard than the rest of the Harley guys around here. Like in Texas, most of the Harley guys that I've met are really, really like friendly, nice dudes. They might be, you know, they might be wearing a leather vest. A lot of them are just like, it's the leather vest that they got at the Harley dealer with the Harley-Davidson patch on them. Some of them are like the Coalition of Christian Riders or whatever it is. And then you also have your Banditos, which, if you don't know, Banditos are the big actual rebel or the outlaw club around here. I think they're one percenters. Certainly in Arkansas, they're one percenters. But
what does that mean, one percenters?
They're the 1% of riders who are actually like, they're the 1% of clubs that are actually violent and shoot people and like run drugs and stuff. They're outlaw bikers, and I'm sure it's not all hashtag not all Banditos, but it's that there are like 3 distinct groups of Harley rider down here, and they all get along. But it feels like up in the Midwest, even if you're just some dad with a Harley, you have to have that edgy Harley image, you know?
Yeah. And it's funny, it's like, where did the edginess, where did that develop? In the 80s? You know, I guess it was like the outlaws of the 70s. I don't know.
Yeah, it came with the rebel image with movies like oh man, I can't remember the name anymore. It's Wild Ones. That's the one. Thank you, brain. That's the one that really kind of started the outlaw biker image, and then people were like, I want to be like that. I'm gonna go get a Harley-Davidson and be cool. And then Harley leaned into it with their marketing. They were like, yeah, we're the freedom, you know, opposed the everybody else American brand, you know?
Yeah, so it was solidified by also like the American, you know, outlaw, the American, you know, isolation.
Yeah, I mean, even down to the fact that Harley-Davidson basically went to Reagan and was like, hey, you know how Honda's making that CB750? Yeah, we can't compete with that, so just make it impossible to buy here. Make it really expensive.
Nuh-uh, that did not happen.
Oh yeah, it absolutely happened. Harley basically went to the president in the 70s and the 80s, and they were like, put tariffs on all these bikes, make them really expensive to buy, so that we don't have to compete. And you could argue that Harley-Davidson is still recovering from that mistake.
Wow, that is crazy. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, I think that was the AMF years for Harley, maybe right before, but they didn't want to compete, and so they didn't. And that's part of the reason why all these bikes are still the same today. It's because they didn't have to advance. Wow,
that's cool. That's cool to hear like the origin story of that. That makes a lot of sense. It's crazy, but you grew up in Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were you riding in Chicago, or did you not start riding until you had moved out of Illinois?
I didn't start riding until I came to Texas. So
okay.
I was one of those guys who saw motorcycles, but I didn't see them as like a thing for me. And I saw a ton of different bikes because I lived in Chicago. So Chicago, yeah, it's in the Midwest, but it's not really a Midwest city. It's very different. So there's a lot of squid culture, there's a lot of Busa culture, there's a lot of different kinds of motorcycles, and obviously there's a ton of Harleys.
Right.
But you know, I saw Harley-Davidson as like the hard rock. You know, it's like a chain where you go to get your T-shirt. And then I actually bought my first motorcycle was a Harley-Davidson.
Oh yeah, that's right. What was it?
It was the Street 750, their first liquid-cooled little cruiser, and it was designed for use in like India and other markets where a big bike like that would have been taxed too much, and it was actually a lot of fun. I liked that bike. And then
how much was it?
10 grand, something like that.
Oh,
it was a little bit more expensive than getting an Iron 883. I think it was 10 grand.
What year was that where it was 10 grand?
2016. Yeah, the liquid-cooled Harleys, they actually made some really competitively priced liquid-cooled Harleys for a couple of years, and nobody bought them. And so they were like, okay, well, we'll stop selling them then.
Why? Strictly because of just like the air-cooled club? Like, people are like, well, I like the air-cooled ones. Like, what's the big difference?
A lot of the difference was that they were really small motorcycles. They were physically very small, so they're hard for people to, they're hard for big people to get on. But when you ride them, they're actually really good. They handle really well. Like, I should get you on my fiance's street rod, my old street rod, because we still have it, and get your thoughts on it, because the ergonomics are borked on it. They're so long, but it handles beautifully.
Yeah, I think I'm excited to ride more Harleys strictly because of the handling.
Yeah, they're surprisingly good. That one is one of the best handling Harleys I've ever felt.
Okay, that's good to know.
But they are pretty darn good. They're not like, they're not razor sharp, but they get the job done.
You guys, this is crazy. This is a day that I'm going to remember, because I'm like, if I end up with a cruiser, it's because of the time that I rode the Lowrider ST.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Oh, it warms my heart.
So if you're nervous to ride one, man, just keep your, it's got to be the feet thing too, because if you lose where your feet are, your arms are going to tense up, and that is the cause of like everything going wrong on a bike, is when your arms tense up, and I hate that.
Yeah.
Because your bike wants to do everything for you. It wants to do every single thing for you, but if you're tensed and freaking out, you're literally working against the bike.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, dude, this is so funny. Like, I am so excited to get on the highway. Like, I never thought I would say that.
But yeah, the Harley makes it fun, because you get to just rev it out and shoot forward and pass all the cars and be like, ha ha ha, I'm on a big motorcycle.
Dude, it's also crazy, real quick, obviously, before we sign off, like how you can get something in your head about an archetype, and then it just stays there.
Yeah, it really does. Especially Harley-Davidson. Because
it's like, I guess, if you're never, like, what's gonna push you out of your comfort zone if you're the one that's always making all the choices, you know? Yep. And it's the same reason, like, it wasn't until I worked for a YouTube channel that I got on a dirt bike. Because I was like, oh, this is for, I don't know what it was, but you have, like, strange realities in your head that are not the truth. They're just like weird things you built and then left there. So to come out here, ride a bike that I don't think is aesthetically pleasing. It's not bad looking by any means, it's just not really my bag. But damn, it's like, but the riding experience like kind of on what I would think when it comes to aesthetics.
Right.
So,
and when you're sitting on it, you're not looking at it.
Exactly. And it's comfortable. Like, I guess my knees are a little bit sore. I guess just from, do your knees get sore when you ride the bike?
Not really. I just think I'm used to it at this point. I think if you ride it some more, your body will just be more comfortable.
Yeah, I guess you just have to, this is like the second bike I've ever ridden with mids, you know? Dude, this is crazy!
You look pretty cool on it though, that's for sure.
Do I look cooler? Okay, cool. Because that's what matters. is
Yeah.
how cool do I look. All right, guys. I'm going to sign off with get out of your comfort zone somehow. I don't know
Yeah.
how you would do that if you're not out there doing the content grind, but you
Just
know,
borrow a buddy's bike here and there.
yeah, I think most people let you ride their bike.
Yeah. Like the first time I got on a leader bike, I was on a buddy's bike, so.
Every friend wants to see you smile and laugh and expand as a person. So,
Absolutely.
dude, Jake, Spike, this is nuts. I can't get over it.
I'm so glad you're having fun on it. I really am.
All right, well, thanks for letting me ride it, and everybody stay tuned for the episode where Whitney sells all of her bikes to buy a really expensive cruiser.